Dhoni, he's just an amazing man. Like, obviously, we talk about his calmness all the time. I look in this country and I think of someone like Virat Kohli. He's someone that is very publicly a pro-Test cricket and wants to see Test cricket survive.
How many Australians have represented CSK in the IPL? Take a guess. 8. Hi, hello and welcome back to Kutti Stories with Ash. This is an IPL special and brought to you by Peter England. I've got someone who I learnt a lot as a young cricketer. Never imagined we would be playing for the same team, but that's what IPL has done to every single Indian cricketer. He came into the dressing room, I was in awe, but nevertheless he grew on to become a lovely mentor, a good friend. I'm not sure I can continue calling him a mentor because I've got to the stage where he was when I started my games. Huss, thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thanks for having me, Ash.
It's my pleasure. Never thought I'd be doing this, nor did I think that you would be here on my show. It's been a long while since I first saw you in that CSK dressing room, Huss. A lot of people have gone on to, do a lot of wonderful things inside the dressing room. You've won a lot of titles there. Before I explain what the show is all about and what are the segments, I want to ask you, what was your first memory of getting inside that CSK dressing room?
Yeah, it was quite funny, actually. I remember Matthew Hayden and myself, we were part of the CSK squad for the first time. I remember coming down the hallway into the dressing room for the first time. And Matthew Hayden, as you know, is this big, strong guy, and he had a reputation of being quite aggressive and could be a little bit nasty on the field as well. And I remember Matthew Hayden was walking into the dressing room first, and I was behind Matthew Hayden, and I could just watch everyone in the dressing room, all these young Indians just like cowering into the corner in fear of Matthew Hayden, thinking, "What? Who's this guy? We're scared of him." And Matthew Hayden, he's a great bloke, he just said, "G'day boys, how you going? Nice to meet you," and the look of astonishment on some of these Indian players was just priceless because, they were thinking, they had this picture of what Matthew Hayden was like, and then suddenly it was being smashed by what he was actually like as a person. And as soon as we got in that dressing room, started meeting everyone, it was just a lot of excitement, really. And I was just in awe of how you guys went about your work. I was learning more than you guys were learning off us, like just watching how you guys trained, playing in Indian conditions, watching Dhoni train, Suresh Raina, yourself going about it. Murali was in there. Like, I just thought I'm in seventh heaven here, but, just watching and interacting with all these great players from all around the world.
Huss, actually, this show is about 3 sequences where I take you through different stages of what you've done, what has happened, what's the IPL all about. So the first segment is going to be Reminisce with Ash, where we'll be talking about stories that I remember and I put you through the grill. And the second one is going to be a gentleman's league question. And the final one is going to be a DRS with Ash question. Because in that DRS, I would ask you to, review one of your decisions that you made, and also give you an opportunity to revisit them and address it again, and also put you through a bit of rapid fire there. So let's dive into the first segment, Reminisce with Ash, brought to you by nobody. So Reminisce with Ash, I'm going to take you back to that particular situation. You spoke about Matthew Hayden. You're very gracious enough to talk about Matthew Hayden when I asked about you. Is that who Michael Hussey is actually, apart from what you do on the field? Because I've hardly seen you talk about what you do, but you've gone quietly about your business. You've gone, almost at the backside of what you've done through your career. Late bloomer in Test cricket, but yet an unbelievable inspiration for most of us that watch you go about your business. Tell us something about yourself. We'll go to Matthew Hayden. I have a very interesting episode, but tell us about yourself. Yeah,
I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, I think it's born out of when I was a very young boy. I was as a young kid growing up, I loved cricket. All I wanted to do was play Test cricket for Australia. My hero was Alan Border. In fact, I was a right-handed batsman until the age of 8 years old.
Okay.
But I just loved Alan Border. So I thought, no, I want to be like AB. So I turned around and started batting left-handed to be like AB. Don't worry, there was times when I was in massive form slumps. I thought I better change back here. But because I was so little, I didn't have any shots. I was in survival mode the whole time. And I always felt a little bit weak, a little bit inferior to everyone else. So I think I always thought everyone was a bit better than me. And so that's why I always looked at other players and thought, wow, how good are they? How good is this, person? How good are they? And I'm never going to be as good as what they are. And so maybe that's where, that example about me talking about other people comes from. But I'm also big on humility as well. You've played a lot of cricket as well. In this game, it can really bring you back down to earth very quickly.
So which is it? Is it humility or a bit of awe about others? Which is it exactly? Or give me a percentage of both.
It's definitely a bit of both, but I think they're sort of intertwined. Because I was so little and felt inferior to everyone else, I think that gave me a sense of humility as well, thinking, okay, I can never afford to be complacent or think I'm better than anyone else because this game can bring you back down to earth very quickly. So that's probably where it comes from, I guess.
Right. You were a late bloomer in Test cricket for Australia, scored heaps of runs in first-class cricket. Make no mistake of that, Australia had a wonderful batting lineup all along, which delayed someone like you getting into the side. But of late, there is this dawn of T20 cricket, right? I mean, it's just opened new opportunities for people from different pockets of the world, and more so for people in India because of the IPL. There has been a few murmurs from the corners of people who are the stakeholders of the game about the health of Test cricket. So the BCCI has recently said, okay, we're going to go about increasing the match fee for Test cricket and also making it mandatory for contracted players to go and play first-class cricket. I mean, getting the priorities straight, if I may say so. What is it like back home, and what do you think of where cricket stands, especially for Test cricket and T20 in comparison?
Yeah, well, it's similar. There's similar discussions happening in Australia about where's the future of Test cricket going to lie. And, I mean, I think it's great that the BCCI are looking to prioritise Test cricket. Certainly in Australia, we look to prioritise Test cricket as well. But I think ultimately it's going to come down to the appetite of the players. And we're very lucky at the moment. I look in this country and I think of someone like Virat Kohli. He's someone that is very publicly pro-Test cricket and wants to see Test cricket survive and thrive. And I think while we've got players like him, who's obviously an icon of Indian cricket, supporting Test cricket, then I think it's got a great chance to continue. So we need those types of players continuing to promote Test cricket. It will always be the best form of cricket. The hardest, the toughest, and I think as a player where you gain your most respect from your peers because it tests you in so many different ways, physically, tactically, technically, mentally, in every facet of the game. And so that's why I think I'm confident it will survive because players will want to be tested against the best players around the world. They want to gain the ultimate respect from their peers from around the world. And the only way to do that is in the toughest format of the game. And so I hope and pray that Test cricket continues for many, many more years to come and continues to thrive, but it ultimately is going to come down to what the players want and their appetite for it.
We are in those months where IPL is the flavor of the season and people just look at it all the time, and it's almost like a summer holiday for them with IPL entertaining them through the evenings. We can't miss the synergy. You said Test cricket tests you in different ways. And you yourself, not a lot of people believed was naturally going to take up to the T20 game, but you have a few IPL titles as a player and you took up the T20 format like fish to water. And how do you see the synergy between Test cricket, T20 cricket as such? Because there's a lot of specialization now coming from different walks of cricketers saying, I specialize in T20 cricket. Yeah,
I think the game's really evolved. When we first started playing IPL cricket, there was a lot of more the traditional Test players that were playing, like Callis and Ponting and even myself, Matthew Hayden. We were all sort of more Test cricketers that then tried to develop into T20 cricketers. And then we saw a bit of a change. There was a few more specialists sort of coming along, a bit more power hitting coming into the game. Bowlers trying different deliveries, lots wide Yorkers, slow ball bouncers, different types of things. So I think the game evolved. But I actually feel as though in the last couple of years, the basics of the game have come back again. You see someone like Mohammad Shami, Josh Hazlewood, who's done really well in the last few years with the ball. They just keep it very simple. They don't try too much. And that's testing the modern day players with their techniques. So I don't know. I feel like the game is continuing to evolve. There's still a place for the power hitters and, the sloggers and things like that. But there's also room for the players that have that sort of basic skills, sort of in place as well. So, I love all forms of the game. I think Test cricket's the best. But I do love T20 cricket as well. I think it's got a really important place in the cricket landscape as well. Introducing the game to new people. Getting new fans. There's a lot of competition with other sports. Football or basketball or whatever the other sports are. to get people falling in love with cricket, T20 is a great vehicle to do that. And then hopefully we can introduce them to the other formats of the game after that.
It's interesting that you said that. I'm going to take a leaf out of what you said and go back there. My first memory of Michael Hussey and Matthew Hayden inside the same dressing room that I came to was the team meeting that happened in the first game CSK was supposed to play Kings 11 Punjab at Mohali. And I was just standing there. Kepler Vassels was the coach. You might remember that. And he was like, he opened the floor up and said, let Haydos take over the team meeting and talk about what's going to happen tomorrow. The first thing Haydos said was, you know what? Srishant's going to come at me and he's going to bowl quick. I'm going to walk down the ground and take him down. And I'm like, I hadn't seen a bowler bowl 140 till then, right? I've never seen anybody. And my experience of watching it in the nets was pretty rapid. And when Haydos said that, I'm like, I just sat back and said, wow. And that was my first memory. And you can hear a lot of people talk about it. I've heard Indian broadcasters also talk about all this, but never seen it in, flesh and blood.
Yeah.
The next day, Haydos walked out there and walked at him and smashed him down the ground.
Yeah.
And you walked in at number 3 and you took 100 in that game. I mean, you took them down. We got like 240 or something.
Yeah.
Why? Is there like a special liking towards Srishant? Or is it like the way you guys just went about it? I remember him taking down Matthew Hoggard in the first over of an Ashes test.
Yeah.
Is he just who he is, or it's a special liking to Srishant?
No. I think it's just the way he likes to play the game. And it's twofold. One, it's to get him going in the game, in the contest. He wants to assert his dominance in the game, but he also does it for his teammates. He wanted to show that we are going to be positive. We're going to be confident. This is how we're going to put pressure on the opposition. And that almost takes pressure off the rest of the batting order. And that's why he was such a great team man. He wanted to put pressure back on the bowling team, but he also wanted to take pressure off the rest of the players in the batting order. So I do remember that. And I've heard him talk about opposition bowlers like that quite often in the past. I remember in the West Indies 2007 World Cup, we were coming up against South Africa. We had our team meeting and John Buchanan started the conversation about Sean Pollock and Haydos just interrupted him, said, don't worry about Sean Pollock. I'm going to smash him first ball. And I was like, well, for sure enough, he walked at him first ball and smashed him back over his head. And just to send a message to the opposition that, we're here to play. So he was a great guy to play with, obviously.
No, when you said Sean Pollock, the very next game, I think we were playing Mumbai in Chennai. I don't know if we won. I think we lost. We won that game again. He spoke in sequence of what he'd do every single ball. He stepped out and tonged Sean Pollock first ball. And we're talking about Sean Pollock, right? And then he said he'll bring the keeper up and I'll lap him. And he did that. And I'm like, what the hell is happening here, man? Anyway, it is about the first eye-opening for a young cricketer watching the likes of Haydos and Huss going about what they do. You had your own ways of doing this. Matthew Hayden was intimidating, but you had your own way. You batted through the 2010 and 11 season like a dream for CSK. You played in Chennai, very contrasting to what you do back home in Western Australia or somewhere. How did you manage to adapt? What was it like playing at Chepauk, the fortress?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the best places to play in the world.
Really? Okay.
The fans are unbelievable. The noise they make. Literally, you come back to your hotel room after the game and your ears are still ringing, with the noise. So it's a great experience, obviously, to play there. I mean, the way I played was very different to the way Matthew Hayden played it, but I had to learn that lesson. You spoke about it. It took me over 10 years to get into the Australian team. And I went through a lot of ups and downs through that period. And one of those periods was trying to bat like Ricky Ponting or Matthew Hayden, thinking that's what the national selectors wanted. But that wasn't my style of play. So I had to learn those harsh lessons to sort of go back and go, no, I've got to figure out how I play best and how I play best in these conditions. And so it was good lessons to learn. But starting at the IPL in Chennai, in Indian conditions, obviously very foreign to Australia, I almost had to start that process again, figuring out how do I play in Indian conditions. And that's why it was great to watch and learn of so many players, like obviously watching Suresh Raina, how he went about his work, MS Dhoni. Badrinath was probably a bit of a, not one of the big names, but I loved the way he went about it. And so I learned a lot about watching the angles that he'd used and the running between the wickets. Murali Vijay, obviously you had a great relationship with him opening the batting. So I was watching you guys as much as maybe you guys are watching me, and then trying to learn and figuring out, okay, how can I play best here in Chennai?
And what was it? Give us one finite definition of what it takes to play here. What adjustment did you have to make?
It's a good question. I think the biggest challenge for me was going to be how I was going to go against the spin. I actually really liked opening the batting on the Chepauk pitch. With a new ball, it actually came through really nicely, bit of extra bounce. I felt like a bit at home. I could play my shots, square of the wicket, off the faster bowlers. But the challenge was going to be against the spinners. And I was very lucky playing county cricket for Northamptonshire. And we had Graham Swan, Monty Panesar, and a guy called Jason Brown, who's an excellent off-spinner as well. And so I was just batting against those guys every day, and so learning to play against spin. So I was taking a lot of those learnings into trying playing in the IPL, at Chepauk as well. So that really helped me a lot. But then, you make lots of mistakes along the way as well. And so it's just trying to learn from those mistakes along the way.
Very, very small things. What I used to observe bowling to a lot of Western batters and when I bowled to you was the fact about how you made sure that I felt my length wasn't apt all the time. You were very busy in your defense, tried to use your hands, get on the other side of the ball. It was quite wonderful. It was I could play that mental sort of a game, but I don't think I was as good at that point of time to be able to challenge you as much. So that is one thing.
You got me out many times in the net, Sash, I remember.
That's okay. The nets used to rag a lot more than the centre did. Coming back to the topic, Huss, you mentioned about how you made the mistake of wanting to be a Matthew Hayden or a Ricky Ponting. I want to get back to Ricky Ponting, one of the most successful captains the modern day sport has seen, one of the finest batsmen we've seen as well. And then you've seen Mahendra Singh Dhoni at Chepauk for CSK and also for India. Have you seen Game of Thrones?
Yeah, a little bit.
A bit of ice and fire there. What was your initial judgment and how did it pan out?
They're very different. I mean, but they're both brilliant in their own way.
A few titles between them.
Yeah, there's quite a few, But I'd say Ricky Ponting, he is someone that he leads by example. Like if you do a training drill at practice, he will set the standard and you have to try and get up to that standard. He is such a competitive person. Like, even if you're playing TT or, I don't know, marbles or something like that, he will want to win. He's just like so competitive. But the other thing about Ricky is that he backs you in 100%. Like, even if you're not going so well or you're just struggling for confidence a little bit, he will say to the selectors, I want this guy, back this guy will come good for me, and knowing you got the captain's support really, I guess it makes you feel 10 foot taller. Dhoni, he's just an amazing man. Like, obviously we talk about his calmness all the time. The way he sees the game is a lot different to anyone I've probably ever seen before. His perspective, and I just love the way, I think he's got a great feel for what it takes to create a winning environment and to put a team together that will, in the long term, have success. Again, there's that trust in the players. I think there's so many examples of we've hardly changed the team over the years. There's been that continuity, and he looks for good players to play that particular role, but he also looks for good people. And once he's got those good people, he will really back them to the hilt. I think another good example is Shane Watson. For us, he had a season where he could not score runs for the whole season. But Dhoni just said, nope, we're sticking with him. He'll come good. And sure enough, he came good when we made the playoffs. He made 2 big scores and we fell 1 run short of winning the title that year. So he's got an amazing perspective on the game. The way he treats people and the players is pretty special. You honestly feel, again, you feel like you're backed and you're trusted and you're loved very much. So, no, they're both very special people. They do it in their own different way. I think the other special thing about Dhoni is he's got this amazing ability to take pressure off players, particularly young Indian players. I remember a speech he gave. You know how we come in before a big game in the huddle?
The 12 gets in there.
Yeah. So we're playing RCB at the Chepauk. The crowd is literally going nuts. Anyway, Chris Gale's the big fish on, for RCB. We're in this huddle as we're about to walk out onto the field. And MS, he just brings the team in and he says, guys, doesn't matter if we win or lose today, but the Fair Play Award is very important to me. And I'm sitting there thinking, are you serious? We're playing RCB at the Chepauk. It doesn't matter if we win or lose. But the Fair Plays Award, like, what are you talking about? He goes, if you might miss the ball and the umpire gives you out, don't argue with the umpire. Just put your bat on your arm and walk off. And if you're bowling and you think you've got him out and you're not getting, don't argue with the umpire. Just play the game and let's just enjoy. And what will be, will be. And I remember walking out onto the ground thinking, what on earth is this guy talking about? This is a massive game. We've got to beat RCB. And it wasn't until later that night where I got back to the hotel room and I thought, I know what he was doing. You could now see some of these young Indians, just the pressure and weight of expectation coming off them because it was such a massive game. He was trying to take pressure off them. And he's got these weird and wonderful ways of doing that. And it's a great ability to be able to do that, especially in a place like India.
You're right. I would say this is a bit of retrospective wisdom in a way. It's happened to me so many times with him. I was going through this phase where I was getting hit, not getting enough wickets, and a lot of experts, which is continue to go on my back all this while, about how much I try in my life, like how much I try with the bowling. I do so many variations, so on and so forth. And there was a phase where I started just bowling off breaks. And I found some success, and then there was a phase where I wasn't getting enough wickets. So he came up to me and he said, your biggest strength is to bowl all the variations. You can bowl everything. I was like, yeah. And then he said, the only difference is, I just kept watching the gap between the hands. And I was like, yeah. I thought he's going to say something. And he said, the variations are falling this much apart and it must be this much in line. I'm like, okay. So what he was actually trying to say is, still bowling the variation was fine, but I just needed to be within that space and not in this space. Right. And it took me 2 years to understand that because that's what he was referring to. But as you bowl, as you become a better cricketer and as you realize all these things, it becomes a bit of a retrospective wisdom. So it's phenomenal how we can do this, you're right? But one magical moment, like that sticks with me all the time. We were in Dharamshala and that particular game, what are your memories of that game, Huss? I think I've seen you wearing bibs and...
Yeah, I wasn't playing that match.
You've done so much in Test cricket. You've done so much in life. How are you wearing those green bibs and running onto the field like a 10-year-old kid after winning a game?
Like Australian team, it's a tough team to get into sometimes, the old CSK team. But I do remember that game vividly. We were fifth on the table coming into that match. We needed to win that last match to get into the playoffs, to make fourth position. And we were struggling in the match. And MS came in and he made 50 off 20-odd balls to win the game, but he needed 2 sixes from the last 2 balls off Irfan Pathan, I think. And sure enough, it's probably one of the most emotional moments I've seen from him, when he hit that second ball for 6 and he was punching his helmet, with excitement. It was an amazing feeling, being able to be there and witness it. But then what followed that was unbelievable as well. We took so much momentum from that into the playoffs and eventually won the tournament. So it was an incredible journey, and it just goes to show you he was in that situation again where the game was on the line, and it's amazing how often he was able to, deliver and deliver the victory for the team. It was amazing. So, what a player.
I want to take you back to CSK. You played 1 year for MI. You played far more for CSK. Have you ever given it a thought that Michael Hussey, going into the auctions those days, was going at a base price? Would you still think that would be the market for you? Has the game changed? How much do you think you'd be bid for now?
Maybe 20-odd crore, maybe? No, I never thought I would be one of the big money earners, I'd play my role, and I thought you said earlier, I'm happy just being in the background, just quietly doing my job, in the background. I don't need to be the big star. I don't need to be the one on show. I don't need to be the big money earner. That's not why I'm playing the game. I think what I loved about the IPL, I didn't care about what the base price or whatever price I went for. It was more about coming to India. And what I loved about it more than anything was there were players coming from all around the world into one dressing room, and you could watch and learn and talk about the game with all these different players. We had West Indians, South Africans, New Zealanders, Indians, players from all around the world coming together, and everyone had a different perspective on the game, watching Indians play in Indian conditions. You just could not help but learn. And so I was just soaking up all that, all those learnings, really. And that's what motivated me about playing in the IPL. It wasn't certainly the
cash on
auction night, that didn't bother me so much.
Getting stuck right back in, Huss. We spoke a lot about MS. You mentioned about Suresh and all that. You've been a player, you've been a mentor, you've been a senior. Now you're the coach of the Chennai Super Kings team. Maybe you look like one of those spiritual gurus now, with a bit of a graying and the way you talk, I need a break, I'm enjoying my time at home and all that. How is it being a coach? I watch Rahul Dravid being the coach. I see him go about his business. I probably think I'm on the same age group as he is sometimes when he talks. How is it being a coach? You can't control it as a player anymore.
Yeah.
What is the most challenging thing about being a coach? and what is the most satisfying thing about being?
I absolutely love it, to be honest. And look, I'm assistant coach or batting coach as well, so that's less stress, less pressure than being the head coach, that's for sure. I'll leave that to Stephen Fleming. But no, I really enjoy the coaching side of things. I love building relationships with players. I love watching them grow. I love trying to help them take their game from here to here, whether that's just in one season of an IPL or it's, over the next couple of years of their career. I get a lot of joy and a lot of enjoyment from working one-on-one with players. So that's probably the biggest thing. And I think there's a lot, what I find personally, there's less stress being a coach. You try and prepare the players as well as you can mentally. So when it comes to game day, then you can just sit back and enjoy the game. Let the players then take over, and it's up to them to perform on the day. And that's my sort of attitude towards it. I don't like to get too stressed before games because, as you say, you can't control the outcome. There's no point worrying about it. So I just sit back sometimes and just in awe of watching some of the talented players from both teams, at play. I love in our team, someone like Ruturaj Gaikwad. I've seen him when he first came to CSK as this young, skinny little kid. And I remember he got COVID when we were in Dubai, one of those seasons, and he got quarantined for 32 days. He just kept testing positive, and the poor kid, he came out, and I watched him in his first net session after, and I thought, wow, there's something special about this kid, And he played a couple of games, he didn't score many runs, and he came back out of the team, but I knew there was something special there. And he just kept working away at his game. And of course, what we've seen in the last few seasons of IPL has been phenomenal. And I just love just watching players like him go about their work, watch how they prepare, and then showcase their skills on the big stage. It's just phenomenal. So yeah, I get a lot of joy out of the coaching side of things.
Satisfaction of seeing somebody succeed under your wings. Yeah, it's very understandable. I just got two questions before we jump to the next segment. Two straight challenges of being a coach that comes to my head, also having been at CSK, is team meetings or batting meetings for your particular section. MS has never been a fan of meetings. He tries to keep it really simple. And I mean, there was a meeting, there was a question the other day. You've been a coach and you were there. Somebody asked him, how are you dealing with a young bowling attack? And what did you tell Tushar Deshpande? And I was watching it. I was like very keen. I know how MS talks. And I was like, I wanted to understand what he was going to say. And he said, there is a long offside boundary. And I said, Tushar, if you want to get hit on that side. And from whatever you've given last game, try and reduce it by 2 runs. I just watched it and I'm like, yeah. And then he stopped. I'm like, yeah, it makes sense because by 2 runs, you're getting that person better and you're chasing 2 runs lesser. And he doesn't like massive meetings. And how do you deal with it as a batting coach? Would you like meetings or you think you found a sweet spot to work with?
No, I'm a bit in MS's camp. I don't like a lot of meetings either. From a batting perspective, we work a lot one-on-one because you're a different player to Ruturaj, to Daryl Mitchell, to Suresh Raina, to Matthew Hayden. We're all different, and so I'd prefer to work one-on-one with you and sort of say, okay, what are your options against Rashid Khan or Bhuvi or whoever it may be? And then you can develop your own plans. And the beauty of it is that if you want to go and tap into someone else, you see them at training every other day. You can get a couple of batters together. We used to quite often get Raidu and Shane Watson, and a couple of other young guys get together and we'd have a little bit of an informal chat about batting sort of on the field at training. But formal meetings, like I feel as though players just drift off pretty quickly. If we're starting talking about your game, well, then 3 other batsmen are sitting over here, they're probably just going to drift off a little bit. So, plus the other part of meetings is I think sometimes maybe bowlers as well, but certainly batsmen, we can fill our head with too much junk. You can study all the stats and watch all the videos and come in to a game with all these preconceived ideas and you almost forget to watch the ball.
Lack of clarity.
Yeah, so certainly my philosophy in batting is to try and take out as much of that junk and focus on what's really important, which is just that ball coming down. So you talk about how many different variations you've got. That you can go one way and you can go and try and study them all on the videos and, he's got this ball, he's got that ball, he's got this one. And you can be sort of not sure which one's going to come because you're thinking about too much, or you can just clear all that junk out, literally watch the ball out of your hand and then say, I've seen that, yeah, and I'll play it accordingly. And that's the way I'd prefer to go about it.
Interesting. Another question that I wanted to ask, CSK, you mentioned it, CSK hardly changes the 11. They actually don't. Of late, we've been seeing 13 players at least being involved in a season unless there is injuries to dig deeper. How challenging is it? How do you keep the other ones that are fighting for a place motivated through the season?
It's a good question, and that is a challenge, because the players that are on the sidelines, they know that it's going to be difficult to get into that team unless there's an injury, or because Dhoni and Flem, they like to back the players in. They give them the role and give them a really good run at it because, especially T20 cricket, it can be pretty fickle. You can have a few games where you're not going to score or whatever. But I guess the message to the other guys is just be ready. You never know when an injury is going to come up. And then the exciting thing is, if you do get an opportunity, you know that the same luxuries will be afforded to you as well. You'll get a chance and you'll get a good run at it, hopefully. But I certainly have, felt for some really good players that haven't really got much of an opportunity. I think of Jagadeeshan's probably a good example from Tamil Nadu. He was with us for a number of years and he was right on the cusp of getting an opportunity. He played a few matches here or there, but unfortunately he just couldn't be in the team for that long extended period, and he worked so hard on his game and I really wanted him to get a chance, but sometimes it just doesn't work out.
He did get a few chances. Anybody else that comes from the top of your head that...
I really enjoyed working with Harry Nishant as well. He was a really good young player. He was someone that I felt as though if he was given an opportunity, he could have done really well, But it's the IPL. It's the best T20 tournament in the world. You've got the best players from all over the world, the best Indian players. It's like the Indian Test team. It's not an easy team to get into.
Right, Huss, that brings us to the end of Reminisce with Ash segment, and we're going to move to the next one. It's a Gentleman's League question brought to you by Peter England. I am actually asking this question to an Aussie, right? A Gentleman's League question.
This is a contradiction already. Aussie and gentleman, do they really go hand in hand?
No, that's what I'm getting to. Australians generally believe in letting the bat and the ball do the talking. They embody this Australian spirit. For you played through the 80s, 90s, probably not the 80s. Have you?
No.
Okay. You would have played junior
playing backyard cricket.
Yeah. 80s, 90s, and the 2000s. Who, according to you, were the best Australian gentlemanly cricketers? If not, what actually is gentleman cricket? I mean, Australia embodies a completely different spirit. Are we too hooked up about people sitting back and, applauding the others? Is it spoken too much about? Is there something?
Well, what I'll say to start with is we're all gentlemen off the field.
Off the field, okay.
Australians, but when we get on the field, we're all very competitive.
Does this competitive nature come in between being a gentleman cricketer?
Yeah, it's a good question. Okay, I'll speak about myself personally. I can't speak for every other Australian out.
No, because everybody that I've met, I told a bunch of people that I'm going to, have a chat with Hussey on my Kutti Stories, and they said, "Wow, what a gentleman." That's the first reaction I got. So you can actually put yourself in there.
I got him bluffed then. No, but basically where my gentleman nature comes from is, from Australia. You're brought up that you get on that field and it's okay to have a few words and a bit of sledging. That's okay, as long as you don't cross the line, obviously. So I sledged two players when I was growing up. The first guy made 150 and the second guy made 200. So I thought,
who were they?
I can't remember who they were. They were just in club cricket, and I thought, okay, I think I need to retire from sledging. And
so what was your sledging like? What did you sledge them?
It was nothing nasty or anything like that, but I just remember having a bit of a go at them and seeing if I could get under their skin, and it obviously didn't work. And I thought, well, this tactic's not working for me. I'm better off just, keeping my mouth shut and just concentrating on playing the game, because the game's hard enough. But the other thing was, sometimes people would sledge me and I was not quick-witted enough to come back with a good response. And so I'd be on the field and I think, what can I say? And then I'd get back to my hotel room that night and I'd be lying in my bed and I think, oh, I should have said that. And I would have been, it would have been perfect. But I was never quick-witted enough, and it was too late. I obviously couldn't come back, the next day and say that. So sledging never really came, naturally to me. And so I just thought, no, I'm just going to concentrate on playing the game, play the game in the right spirit, play it hard but fair. And then, because I actually believe, like, you've been a great player for a long time, but I'm probably not going to remember how many test wickets you got or how many test runs you've scored. I don't remember how many test runs Matthew Hayden scored, Ricky Ponting, Virat Kohli. I don't remember. But I remember how they played the game. And I remember what sort of player they were on the field, how they conducted themselves. And I think that's what people remember. They're going to remember that you're a great player. Yep, that's fine. But they're not going to remember your stats. Well, maybe some will, but not. I'll remember how you played the game, what spirit you played the game, how competitive you were, what victories you were in part of, what titles you won. They're the sort of things that you remember about players rather than their actual stats and numbers and things like that. So I've sort of really held that close to my heart, and I think, okay, well, how do I want to be remembered as a player afterwards? I want to be remembered as someone that played the game hard, played the game fair, but played the game with a humility and treated people with respect.
You've been a retired cricketer for a bit now. What were the initial reactions? What did people come up to you and say? Huss, you were a great cricketer. Huss, you were this, you were that. What is it that stuck with you? Did you feel like they remembered you for the reasons that you want them to remember you for?
It's weird. It's a weird question because my interpretation of myself,
I am a weird guy,
is a lot different to what other people's interpretations were of me. So I remember, I found every game difficult, and I was stressed in the middle all the time. And I remember 12th men used to run out and be saying, what should we do here? Oh, I don't know what to do. And they're like, you're 75 off 45 balls. What are you doing? You're doing it easy. And I'm like, no, I'm not. No, I can't get this guy away. Ashwin's falling too well. It's turning. I'm stressing out, But the people on the outside were thinking that I was in total control and I've got this situation covered. But honestly, it was like a duck on a pond, like you feel very calm on top. It looks calm on top, but you're paddling away underneath. So I guess my interpretation of myself was very different about what other people were saying. So it always found a bit weird for me when people came up and said, while you were at the crease, we knew we were going to win. And I was thinking, are you serious? I was stressing big time out there, or you just seemed like you had that situation under control, or under pressure, you always delivered. And I was like, sometimes, but it was a real stress all the way.
I must admit, if storytelling was an art, you're already proving to be a Picasso at it.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I genuinely think you're doing a great job of it. But are there any names of the gentleman cricketer that you played along with when you played or when you saw?
Well, of course. I think going back before my time, I always loved Bill Lawry, former Australian captain, but I commentated with him as well.
Okay.
And he's just such a wonderful man, funny man, passionate about the game, loves the game. He was a left-handed opening batsman like me, so I sort of he had a big nose like me as well. So
his big nose, an attribute that gentlemen cricketer usually have.
Well, he could get his nose over the ball, but
that's a selfish reason.
But I just love Bill Lawry. I just love the man. He's a great guy, great gentleman. He loved the history of the game. He loved the past players, things like that. So he was one in the 80s. In the 90s, Australia was pretty rough in the 90s, weren't we? Okay, I'm going to be a bit controversial here. I'm going to say Glenn McGrath. Now, Glenn McGrath on the field, he could be a little bit nasty. I mean, he could get a little bit emotional sometimes.
Yeah, we have a few conversations.
There's been a few.
Yeah, but that's fine. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I had a senior player who came up and told me that once I cross the boundary line, I'm nasty as hell. You have to put up with me. But once I'm off it, you can buy me a drink and we'll have. The fact was clear that I had to buy him a drink.
Yeah.
He was not going to buy me. So,
but Glenn McGrath, honestly, is one of the best humans, best characters that I've ever come across in my life. He's such a great guy, a great person. Okay, yes, he's got a bit of that white line fever on the. Gets a bit emotional when going his way. But honestly, he is one of the best people I've ever been lucky enough to know. And he's a pretty darn good cricketer as well.
Do you want to pick one from CSK just to be a
CSK gentleman? I love Badranath.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. He was great to bat with. We have similar personalities in a lot of ways, like hardworking, under the radar, had a good time off the field too, which we used to always enjoy.
I've always seen it. I'm aware of it.
But yeah, he was someone that he's a gentleman as well.
For the next round, Huss, I'm going to start off with a little bit of a surprise. DRS with Ash, brought to you by Probo. I'm going to ask my wife to just bring something on front of the camera.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember it. You've got a giant-sized memory. I think you would remember it, right?
I haven't got a big memory. Ah, yes. I do remember this, of course. Yes, that was a good season.
Let me introduce that for the audience.
Yeah, go on then you.
So this is your orange cap from the 2013 season.
Was it? I'm not good with the years.
Is that right? Yeah, 2013 season. And she said, if you get the orange cap, you have to hand this over to me. and you signed and you promptly handed this over, there are a lot of trophies that I've acquired over the years. This sits in the center of it.
Rightly so.
My house. And it's weird. Every time I look at it, I'm like, what the hell is happening here? My father actually makes sure he picks it up and puts it in the corner, and it keeps coming back in the center. It's got a name in it. So yeah, Huss. So that's going to be my first question. Do you regret this decision of handing over this cap?
No, not at all. Not at all. And especially now that I know that it sits right in the middle of your mantelpiece, that is the best decision that that I've done. Yes, I'm very happy with that.
All right. We are in the era of ball tracking, and a lot of people talk about how the DRS is not the greatest, or it's wrong here, it's right here. What do you think of that for starters? Has it made the game a lot better, or has it?
Oh, it's a good question.
I'm asking a batter, which probably is not the right thing, but I'm still asking.
I think it's made the game better because at the end of the day, we want to get more correct decisions. I mean, I was brought up, the thing that doesn't sit right with me is that I was brought up, my father was very strong on the man in white or the umpire is always right. And you have to respect the umpire's decision. Whether he gets it correct or not, or she gets it correct or not, it doesn't matter. But you need to respect the umpire's decision. And what I don't like in the modern day game is that seeing batsmen just disrespecting the umpire's decision and reviewing straight away. So I don't like that. And, there's certain players around the world, and I'm not going to name any, but seem to refer every single decision, whether it's out or not out, they seem to. And I don't like that because my upbringing was you should respect the umpire's decision.
How would you do it? Like if, for example, he's given a howler of a decision to you.
Yeah.
How would you do it? Excuse me, sir, can you please? Would you have that sort of time? 15 seconds, Huss?
No, I wonder if we can. I mean, I don't have all the answers, but I wonder if we can change it slightly in that it's not up to the batsman to review or even the bowler to review. But maybe the umpire makes his decision. Then if he's sort of not sure, maybe the umpire can say, I just want to check that, like what they do with the runouts at square leg. They think, I'll just check. Or perhaps also the third umpire can have a quick look at a replay and say, maybe we need to just check this decision. Because I'm all for getting more correct decisions, but I'm also more in respecting the umpire's decision as well. So I kind of like it to be taken out of the player's hands and left into the officiators.
A very interesting one, Huss. Like you played for Australia, you played for CSK, you won a lot of titles. There must have been a lot of decisions that you've made in life. You've made the right ones, the wrong ones. If I gave you an opportunity to review one of those decisions and correct it, what would that be?
That's an excellent question. And I guess it's easier to answer with the benefit of hindsight. But I was someone, as a young player growing up, I wanted to play Test cricket for Australia. That was my number one goal. And I wanted it so bad. I mean, like, I can feel myself now tensing up saying, I just want to train harder than anyone else. I want to
do it all over again?
I would.
You would play Test cricket given a chance now?
Yeah, most definitely. But I would have done it differently in that I put too much pressure on myself.
Okay.
I tried so hard, which you have to try so hard. You have to train really hard. You have to work hard. But I put too much pressure on myself. And it wasn't until I learned to almost take a deep breath, almost sort of say, I've done all the hard work. Now I'm just going to go out and play, and what will be, will be. That was the turning point in my career. And that's when my career went like this. Instead of being stuck in this fight of trying to get there. Sometimes it's like it's like a butterfly. If you're trying to catch a butterfly, they're really hard to catch. But if you just turn your attention to other things and just relax and enjoy life, sometimes the butterfly will just come and sit on your shoulder. You know what I mean? So if you want something so bad, sometimes you push it away. But if you just do the hard work, enjoy the journey along the way, then sometimes it'll just come and fall in your lap.
I need to shake your hand for that. It was a great one. I really enjoyed that. It's time to move on and finally try and see if you can get something wrong in this whole thing. To start with, we've got 5 questions. I'll give you multiple. You must have seen.
Starting to sweat here.
That's because of the heat in Chennai. Who wants to be a millionaire sort of a...
Okay.
So your first question, you can look at the screen if you want.
Yeah.
How much did you go for in the IPL's inaugural auction? The options are option A, $250,000, option B, $350,000, option C, $450,000, and finally, option D, $550,000.
I'm going to say 350,000 B.
You don't get much wrong, do you?
Is that right?
I think it is. There you go. You don't get much wrong. I mean, it must have been in your bank account.
That felt like millions and millions of dollars at that time as well. I was thinking, wow, they want to pay me this much money? This is
I'm going to actually come 2 months earlier and practice for that.
Yeah. My first ever contract, which was only a few years before, was $5,000. So when someone
before that,
Not too long before that.
Where was that?
That was for Western Australia, playing first-class cricket.
$5,000.
$5,000.
Is that a monthly fee or?
That's for the year. So it's a few years earlier, but so when someone wanted to pay me $350,000, I thought, wow, I've landed on heaven.
You should have actually bought a place in Chennai.
Yeah.
Have you one? Do you have one?
No, I don't.
I think it's time you did.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, question number 2. CSK's most expensive buy in the IPL auction history. Option A, Ben Stokes. Option B, MS Dhoni. Option C, Suresh Raina. And option D, Ravindra Jadeja. It's not tough.
It's a tough question because it's changed. Okay, I'm going to say it should be one of the Indians, but I'm going to say A, Ben Stokes.
But why was it between the Indians and you went to Ben Stokes? There you go, because that's the right answer.
Because the other Indians were always retained, and I think the
Slabs were lesser.
slabs were lesser then, and now the last few years the bidding has just been going out of this world.
I'm seeing a first 5 question person was.
Don't put extra pressure on.
There's 3 more. There's 3 more. But because I know your intellectual capacity, I've gone for some tougher questions for you.
I'm not going to get this.
Question 3. How many Australians have represented CSK in the IPL? Take a guess. A, 7. B, 8. C, 10. D, 11.
So
we can discuss this.
can we discuss it?
Yes.
Okay, so let's try and go through this. I'm gonna try and remember. So I'm 1, Matthew Hayden. I'm going to say Dougie Bollinger, Ben Hilfenhaus, George Bailey. And now it starts to get tougher.
It does.
Okay, there's got to be some Shane Watson, of course. That's an easy one. We haven't had many lately. That's been the problem.
Since you became a coach.
Josh Hazelwood.
Okay. 7.
So we're up to 7. There's got to be a couple more to that. All right, I'm going to take a guess from here and say there might be a 1-7. Maybe I've missed 3. So I'm going to say C10.
C10 is just about a myth because it's 11.
Come on, who are the other ones?
Yeah, we're going to go to the next question to find that out.
Oh, right, okay.
Excluding yourself, there have been 10 Aussies that have represented CSK. Can you name 5? You've already named 5. Let's try and go the distance. Let's try and go 11.
Okay.
I don't know if I can get it right either.
So I've got 7. So
Okay, let's go. Matthew Hayden, Michael Hussey,
Yes,
George Bailey, Ben Hilfenhaus, Dougie Bollinger. That's pretty easy. I played with all of them.
yes.
We're going to go
Josh Hazelwood.
Hazelwood,
Shane Watson.
Shane Watson.
Have we said George Bailey?
Yes, we have.
Oh.
Shane Watson. Dirk Nannes.
Very good.
Dirk Nannes.
Nancy Nannis.
Ben Lachlan.
I wouldn't have picked that. Yes, I
Ben
remember
Lachlan.
Ben Lachlan. There's 9.
Ben Lachlan. John Hastings.
Yes.
John Hastings. What?
Controversially, that's when I wasn't here. This is when
John Hastings. And there's one more. I'm absolutely devastated that you can't pick that.
Oh, yes, I know. How could I have forgot?
He comes from your household.
Yes, I grew up with him. I used to fight with him in the backyard every day. My brother.
David Hussey.
How did I miss that one?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
In fact, the first time I saw that question, I missed David Hussey for a bit and then I picked it later on. But
Yes.
the 2 people that I missed, I got 9 on the first attempt, was John Hastings,
Yeah.
Dirk Nannes.
Yeah.
Because Dirk Nannes was playing for the Dutch then.
Right.
So, and that's where I missed it. And you've got one more question to go.
Okay.
I must say, I will give all 4 to you, to be honest.
Thanks.
That's probably because of the orange cap that you gave my wife and also because of the nice gentleman that you are. In 16 seasons of the IPL, how many Aussies have won the orange cap? And who are they? You're here.
Okay, so myself,
The options are 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Sean Marsh, and David Warner. Is there any more? That's the question.
Am I allowed to give a clue?
Yeah.
Because you've got 3. That's 3. And
You didn't think I was going to get Sean Marsh, did you?
no, I didn't. I didn't.
Shane Watson. Did he win the orange cap?
I'll give you a clue. Skiing.
Skiing.
Sorry, not skiing. Surfing.
Oh, of course. That's an easy one. Matthew Hayden.
Matthew Hayden. There are 4 Aussies that have won the orange cap, and 4 is the right answer. David Warner has won it 3 times. That makes it 6 orange caps for Australia.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've got the orange helmet at home. Have you?
I do.
Okay. So
Sitting in my study.
the beauty about this is Hayden, when he won that IPL orange cap, was never practicing.
Yes.
He was surfing all season long. I would only see him turn up for the games, score runs, and go back surfing.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting season. That's well done, Huss. I think I must commend you for that because
you.
that question 3, 4, and 5, I've never asked anybody else on this show
Right.
because I thought only you were eligible to answer those questions. So once again, Huss, thank you so much for doing this. It was a pleasure. It was a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire sort of a theme.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I can make you a millionaire at the end of this. But I'm going to try and, be really nice because we've got some gift hampers from Peter England. That's for you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Huss, once again for joining me on this episode of Kutti Stories with Ash, an IPL special brought to you by Peter England.